Hi there, you're on Gossip Says channel. Enjoy watching, subscribe and like it. It's growing our community.
Story 1. I'm having a hard time being there for my friend who has been making bad choices. For context, this is my closest friend of 5+ years. We've been there for each other through breakups and many life changes. I am a few weeks from moving 5,000 miles away from home, and I am trying to decide if I want to hold on to this friendship or end it. As of recently, there's been a few things that have happened that have caused a big rift in our friendship. The on-again, off-again relationship/hookup with someone who does not know what they want. She met this guy, we will call him Jack, over the summer, and they've been hooking up and going on dates. Jack told her he loved her once, then never again. He's made her cry so many times by his emotional unavailability and avoidance. He's gone from wanting to date to not, and whenever he changes his mind, she does too, saying she wants the same. She's poly, which he was aware of, but he strongly disliked her, now ex-primary partner. Now they are just friends, but they still hook up, and she's told me she's still in love with him and would date him the moment he asks. The recent breakup with her primary poly partner. She was also dating this other guy, let's call him Mike, who was a very kind, emotionally available guy. During the whole time they were together, she never said anything bad about him, always showing us through texts how good he has been to her. They got into an open relationship with clear boundaries. After establishing that they were monogamish, she immediately went and had a threesome with another couple the next day. Not part of what they agreed on, but she did it anyways. A few weeks later, Mike broke up with her over text, which I don't agree with. But he was very nice at least. He wasn't rude, but he let her know it was no longer what he wanted. She was very rude, calling him mean names, cursing at him, saying how he wasted her time and how she regrets not picking Jack to be her primary partner instead. When she was telling our friend group chat about this, she talked about how toxic and abusive he was, which makes zero sense because before she had no complaints. Also, as someone who has been in an abusive relationship in the past, this just really hurt me to hear her blindly throw around that word. Lack of consideration for her sexual health as well as her partners. While Mike was her primary partner, they were having unprotected sex, while she was still having sex with Jack, who asked her to use protection on all partners in order to be okay with having sex with her. This is just so icky to me. He never knew about this, and to me that's almost like a big break of consent. She always asks me for advice on things, and then does the exact opposite. I see her repeating these patterns over and over, and it's really frustrating. I'm to the point where I am exhausted. On top of everything else I have going on in my life, she requires so many of my emotional spoons lately, and it brings me down. After our most recent argument, we mutually agreed we needed space. However, she did not give me space and continued to send me long messages about why she's mad at me and how she thinks I'm cold and distant, even though I've told her right now I don't have the emotional capacity to be what she needs. I told her I need time to speak to her after I speak with my therapist. I feel bad because we've always been each other's rocks for a long time, but I feel like she has no motivation to work on herself and managing her emotions. I feel she relies too much on me. She is very upset that I don't like Jack, even though he's such a great guy that's done so much for her. I keep messaging her as respectfully as possible, while still maintaining the honesty that she's always asked for. But now my honest is triggering for her. I think she really needs therapy, but she does not want to find any resources to help her. My boyfriend has even pointed out that the way she messages me is like a toxic ex. Whenever I've needed her, she's been amazingly helpful and supportive, which is why I'm feeling guilty. But I just don't want to blindly support these self-destructive behaviors. Ever since her and her ex of 10+ years broke up early this year, she's been leaning more into unsafe sex, drinking, and drugs. I feel she is the only one that can help herself at this point. Story 2. After I decided to be myself and stop caring about the opinions of others, I found that I ended up despising the person I've become. I've 21F. Always been told since I was a young child that something was wrong with me. My parents instilled it deep that I was the only child who ever threw tantrums or lied. Then getting into my teen years, I had deep struggles figuring out social cues because I've really never been accepted into my peer groups for more than one reason. Those reasons ranging from acting out due to at-home neglect, being undiagnosed AD, all the way to growing up with childhood obesity. I also struggle with bipolar disorder and PTSD from my childhood. So when I was a hormonal 15 to 17-year-old, I was definitely not the most pleasant person. But I have always prided myself on trying to be better and apologizing for my mistakes. But it never seemed to be enough to make people ever want to be around me. In fact, at the peak of my trying to be better, anxiety got the best of me, and I'd formed what my therapist described as possibly a form of selective mutism, since around new people I could not speak, or I'd physically get sick trying to. And that made people want to be around me even less. I mean, who would really want to hang out with a friend that almost vomited on your floor and didn't talk the entire time again? I did find that I was more kind and able to understand people in a different way, but I also kept my headstrong traits and started using it to root for the underdog within my friend group. I think that aside from the problems with not being able to speak around certain new people, I was definitely at my peak. The last 2 years have definitely been hard, but I at one point had a realization that people were still getting into drama with me, and others online would still act the same towards me. I'd started the workforce, and coworkers who I'd never done anything more than make small talk with were being extremely rude to me and refusing to work with me. This kind of broke me apart. I cried on more than one occasion about it to my boyfriend, who I loved deeply, who then ended up cheating on me and then blaming me for it. In about January of this year, I started tossing around the idea that maybe I need to just be myself, since I'd never had an environment where I was encouraged to be me. I always had to put on a face and just be happy, and I wondered if it wasn't causing depression and making some people generally dislike me due to maybe me feeling fake, as I've had people suggest before. I decided to try it out. I changed nothing about how I got treatment for my mental health. The only thing I changed was my mindset. Over the next few months, I found that at first I actually was more likable. It took a couple attempts, but I was able to talk with new people freely without restriction, and even made a few new friends. Then I discovered the more unsavory parts of myself. Naturally, I find I'm a little more hot-headed. But talking with my therapist, we agreed that it isn't necessarily a bad trait, that I was just never taught emotions were ok, so I don't know how to handle those emotions. I also find in my manic episodes, I am especially hot-headed and vengeful. If someone starts drama or problems with me while manic, I jump right to being vengeful, educating them about how what they're doing is messed up. After coming down from my mania, I'm always horrified. But it eventually started to become satisfying, and not just a manic thing. I've always been a doormat, and let people toss me around like a ragdoll. I'd usually try to be the bigger person, even if they were attacking my looks, personality, work ethic, or other personal things. But now that I wasn't allowing that, people were shocked, and it felt like they were getting what they deserved. I'm getting to the point where I'm just not as forgiving. Anyone who gets testy with me is getting blocked. Anyone who betrays me is getting blocked. Anyone who pulls me into their bees is getting blocked. I don't care if they're a random commenter on TikTok or a person I've known my whole life. It to me felt like protecting my peace. I still have a good amount of friends, and I'm grateful for it. Not to say we don't get into spats, but usually they don't do anything that massively bad to me for the spats to cause damage to our friendships. But I do still feel bad. This coming to how I feel now. I cannot stand how I am. I thought I could accept that I'm a little quirky, goofy, and out there. And I thought with proper therapy I could accept that I'm hot-headed and sensitive. But it just feels like accepting these parts of myself has just come with them worsening and turning me into an unsavory and annoying person. I often regret telling people off and burning bridges and believe that maybe those battles weren't worth it. But other times I feel more self-assured and think people who play stupid games get stupid prizes. I'm not going around looking for arguments. They can just happen from various things. But baseline, I hate who I am. I don't want to be angry. I don't want to be sensitive. I just want to be happy and stay happy and fine. It never seems okay to anyone for me to not be happy and okay, and it feels like I'm going insane. I get it now why everyone has always despised me. I'm insufferable. And if I could leave me, then I'd do it too. That's just going to have to be what I do. Go back to people pleasing. And as much as I'm not ready to let people walk all over me again, I'd much rather be in that situation than feeling like an awful person 24/7. I always have been told by therapists that I was a kid and I didn't deserve being told that something was wrong with me. But I feel differently about that now. Something is very, very wrong with me, and I feel deeply sorry that my parents ever had to deal with me, and old friends and partners too. No one should have to be around someone like me. I feel like I need deep mental help, but I don't know how to tell a professional this. I don't even know if I can be fixed because truthfully I don't know what this is. I don't have the slightest clue what's wrong with me. I just want to be different because I feel like then I'd finally be happy. Story 3. I have friends, but can't help feeling lonely. I, 17F, feel so selfish and genuinely embarrassed writing this, but I'm just hoping that maybe there are people who get this. I have always gone through school with a clear group of friends. These groups have changed throughout the years, as we've left schools and joined new ones, but I have never been physically lonely. We had a group in primary school, then left to start different high schools and entirely drifted apart. The exact same thing happened to me last year with my new group of friends of 5 years when I left high school to join sixth form, year 12 plus 13 in England. I am now in my last year at a sixth form that no one in my friend group went to. I would have stayed with them if I could, but they all took sciences and went to this specialist science college. I was in one group from the start of sixth form last year, but I had never felt more excluded. By saying this, I am not meaning to be in any way homophobic, but they were all lesbian, and that was basically what brought them together, what made up their personalities. I think that's great for them, but due to my straightness, I literally just had to awkwardly tag along and observe conversations they had when I did not relate at all. We really were never close, so I kind of just left them one day. They never wondered where I was anyway. At about this time last year, I quite literally lived every day with this aim to find a friend group I could fit into. I guess I just desperately wanted some stability. I eventually went to sit with this group of 4 girls as they were all in quite a lot of my classes. Apart from that, there wasn't really anything that particularly brought us together. I hate to say this, but I basically used them as a final resort in a way, as I needed some people to sit with. They're definitely not the coolest of people, and I know I am horrible for saying this, but I feel like I have this subconscious jealousy of the more popular friend groups in my year, and spend a lot of the time wishing I was with them instead. I cannot tell you why. It's like I'm not in control of my own thoughts sometimes. We spent a lot of last year playing card games every single lunch, which I enjoy, as it takes the pressure off having to have any deep conversations with them. I just don't feel a connection. Am I a psychopath? They're all lovely people and obviously feel a connection with me, but I just can't do the same. There is quite literally no one on this planet who I feel safe sharing my deepest secrets with. No one. I have no actual childhood trauma that I can recall. I live with loving parents and siblings. But I don't know, even my mom, I love her more than words could ever tell. As I do the rest of my family, I just can't express my feelings properly. In the last couple of years, I have started to think more and more that I may have something such as ADHD, but not the typical disorder. I am too much of a people pleaser for that, but the one link to having no motivation. I have also had recurring things that include all the symptoms of panic attacks, coming out of nowhere over the last few years. Maybe I just want something to blame this all on. I'm sick of downplaying my internal struggles in my head just because no physical traumatic event has ever happened in my life. I am the oldest of 4 and have spent basically my entire teenage years just wishing, I had someone like an older sister. Someone I could just talk to. Story 4. My 29 meters boyfriend, 28 meters, of 7 months is an alcoholic. At what point should I call it and leave? I am deeply in love with him, and I want to have the emotional availability to be present while he works through whatever it is he needs. We had plans to build our lives together, and I was so excited about a future with him. I was excited to start thinking about moving in together. Lately, I have not been excited. I don't think I am ready to live with him anymore. I have been feeling wary and cautious, and exhausted from all of the mental effort I have been putting into our relationship. It hurts to think about going back to a life without him, but I feel as though it's necessary for me to consider it. I go to work at 6 a.m. and get off at 2. Sometimes he'll already be drunk by the time I get off work. I'll find out when I meet up with him and take note of his attitude. If we're hanging out and he's not already drunk, then he'll get there within the time we're spending together. It makes me wonder if I'm the reason he's drinking. Maybe he doesn't feel comfortable around me unless he's drunk. I don't know. He's usually so sweet and kind and loving, and I cannot express how much I absolutely love being around him when he's sober. We have so much in common, and we love spending time together. He has so much potential, and he struggles to reach it. He deserves so much better than what he's putting himself through, and I don't know how to help him anymore. I've asked him if he'd consider therapy. When it got to the point where I felt like we hit a dead end, I told him outright that what I needed was for him to go to therapy. I can be present and available to listen and console, and that's what I want to be doing. But I can't teach him the coping methods or give him the professional help that he needs. When he gets drunk, it's like he turns into a completely different person. I almost feel as though he is seeking out something to become emotional about, and usually what he finds will fall on me. From emotional distress about a video game to demanding to know where I am and who I'm with, while he knew I was out roller skating with a friend. Many other instances of this kind of emotional insecurity and instability have occurred. There have been a few times now where I've seen red flags because he will become insecure and untrusting of me. And the friends that I am with while he is drunk, it doesn't matter which ones. If I am out with my friends, or want to be out with my friends, while he is drunk, then it will become a problem. He is not violent or mean. He has said something very hurtful to me about a medical condition that I have been dealing with, but otherwise has not said anything mean. I have to watch my words and actions while he is drunk, or else I'll end up spending the evening consoling him about something that, in my opinion, we don't even need to be having a conversation about. I am worried that someday he will not be so kind. He fell through this cycle again on Tuesday. Afterward, he told me that he dumped out all his alcohol and he won't be drinking ever again. This is the first time he will be trying to fully stop. As someone who has struggled with alcohol dependency myself, I know how hard it is. It is not good for me to watch someone I love hurt themselves like this. I want to trust him and give him this last chance, but I am having a hard time with it. The truth is that I do not trust him. I'm tired and exhausted and hurt. I want to leave him if he is unable to stop drinking. It is a battle he will have to fight on his own. Is that selfish? I feel so guilty for wanting to consider this decision.